Welcome to TradeTheMBI.com. This is John's report for the 30th of July. And as we get to the month, we're getting our profit taking, as well as the realization that Congress is still very far apart on a stimulus redo and the ending of benefits with no fill-in at this particular point. That's definitely going to be a negative catalyst. We can see the rejection here with Science shorts increasing, short-term buyers fading off, as well as midterm and even long-term. We had the DOC red starting its tick up from the other day, but then literally just turning around pretty quickly. And that's just going to be one of those issues of the market is expecting the continuation of funds to aid Americans until there's a normalization, and they're not in agreement. And it's going to be tough in an election year because everybody's got their political viewpoint and they're going to push it as much as they possibly can. From an NQ standpoint, DOC spread had already been in place for a little while here, but we had the rising steel, and as soon as that fades, you get a little bit more pressure. I would expect that if we break that ABM green, that we could be seeing a fill of positive extremes that went right back here. That takes us to a low of 10,308. We're at 500 right now, so it's a few hundred NASDAQ points away. Euro, again, a lot of positive extremes with it, but still pretty darn strong as far as that goes, and that's just the debasing of the US dollar. There's nothing the Europeans can do about it. Fed can decide how much they want to float the euro in order to improve trade prospects. It certainly makes a big difference for S&P companies that do business overseas that bolster their earnings from it. We're seeing actually some weakness from oil as well, and this is part and parcel of that. The continuation of growth is being, questioned, and of course with that you're going to just have our continuation of gold making its dramatic moves, but nonetheless still heading right to the expected direction. From an intraday standpoint, it was pretty clean. We had the buy signal that came in here with the yellow. It was interesting because I was pointing out this chart, which was utilizing the Power Mode 2, the program that I was working on here with the dips of orange. At the same time, you've got a positive move of shakeout rising, and it captured all of it through there. There's still some exceptions that I have to put in some of the additional cell configurations within the falling portion of it, but fairly accurate reading. What's interesting about that is I set up alerts. You can see an alert set up right there, and it will actually produce an email. I can show you what that looks like. So here's what pops up. I'll get a TradeStation message that's sent there, and it's completely customizable. So just the time was 4:50. It just says new buy signal. I can write whatever you want in there. The date being 12, which is basically 2007-30. They just add the 1 to for whatever TradeStation wants, and then just put the signals from the @ES. I'll put a space in that one. Buy entry price, and then it listed what the price was at 32.2750. If we go to our chart right here, 32.2750. So it nails exactly. And what I'll be able to do is establish a stop with that and everything else. And so it becomes completely customizable as far as a email text message, and it sends it directly, and it can be forwarded. So if something you're interested in, at least having those alerts off the setup come in, let me know. I'll add you because I'm just testing it to make sure that it functions properly. But I will definitely share the language so that any of you who are doing your own certainly would be able to have any alert that you want with the language in it. We'll send it to you, or any email that you want, and I think that's pretty effective. What I'll be putting into it, though, will be some of the caveats with positive extremes on a new buy setup, as well as incorporating the stop setup when it's in a long position, and that will cause it to follow trend pretty decently. And then when there's a DOC spread or equivalent to that, making a determination whether or not you have obviously like magenta over the 15 versus not, and then getting the sell. So that will be a little bit more consistent with those readings. Not to mention, I find that when we get buy signals where we're still over 13.5, not very effective. So some of those inclusions I'll stick in there and we'll see how they work out. But overall, it was pretty decent from its capture the buy setups. It's just a little bit earlier than what we see from a regular 5K on some of the colored candles, and so I think that advance will certainly improve things. But I think it's a really good configuration, capturing it's that magenta cross. I have also to do when a magenta comes from underneath on rising Azure, and we'll put those together. But yesterday was just a completely phenomenal run up to the upside. It was clean, it was easy, there really wasn't a whole lot to it. We did produce quite a few positive extremes, even some of them going all the way back over here to this 32 range, and you can see that as the day progressed, once we got into after hours, they filled it back in, and then some. We went all the way back to the dip below. The red line is where we have this move right down here, and that would be the big expectation taking you all the way back down to the 32. But I think it's exciting stuff. So we're looking forward to getting all that out, and that will certainly come in the indicators, and I'll probably include this one. It doesn't even need to be a protected one, because from a language standpoint, it is just relying on the function. So unless you have the functions with current data, it wouldn't produce anything. But having the ability to get the alerts in real time, you can have it, mine pops up on the screen, and also since the email, you can also add in text if you want. So there are a lot of capabilities with that, and I think that's just a nice bonus option to have. Especially if you're moving around or whatever, at least you would get an immediate email. It gives you the time that it took place, the entry price, and so you know exactly how to go from there. And then in the secondary part, when it comes into the sell side, I'll include an alert message that will give you exit price and or updated stops. So I think all of that very consistent with what we want to expand to, where it gives you the ability to be mobile. You don't have to be in front of your screen all the time, and you're still going to get the messages and be able to execute. It would also work from an automation standpoint without even receiving the email, but certainly a nice way to be able to capture trades without actually being in front of your system all the time, and that's a nice thing in summer. As always, though, I will continue to update you on anything new, and look for your renewals so you can get set up for the beginning of August. And it looks like that's going to be just as dramatic as we had for July. Doesn't mean we'll necessarily move that far range-wise, but you can see intraday it's just phenomenal movement. So that volatility just continues to be there. Even though the overall general price range of the market is starting to get much more stabilized. We didn't have a whole lot of movement in July. It was just a soft ease up, but intraday, much more dramatic than the daily points out. Trade well. We'll talk again later.